What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. This very oddly shaped and oddly colored knife is the Bestech Knives Fractal. I am a big fan of Bestech and their very consistent quality. Absolutely. This knife, you guys probably saw me unbox this last week or sometime, and it definitely took me by surprise. I know that right off the bat, like, this is what's going through the majority of people's mind. Okay, the silhouette's interesting, complex, but I am not sure about that color setup. Well, I want to make sure that everybody knows right off the bat. A quick look shows me that the different color schemes that are available for this knife are this random sort of anodized setup. And then they have a kind of a greenish anodizing pattern where it's green here and it still has the same inlay. And then they have one that's just stonewash. So if you look at this knife and you think, I could kind of get down with the shape of that, but I don't like the ano pattern, fear not, because there are different variants of this. We're going to talk about that. This knife was provided, sent to me by another member of the Apex Pass-Around group, which means by extension it came from the manufacturers Bestech themselves. As usual, I'll try not to let that affect my review, but it should be pretty easy considering I do not get to keep the knife. If you are new to my channel, you've been around for a long time, either way, if you'd like to support my channel, I do have a Patreon where you can get your hands on some cool stickers like this, and at the same time, gain access to my once-a-week Patreon exclusive content, which is available at all tiers, including the $1 tier. So if you'd like to check that out, I do have a link down in the description where you can go take a look around, and if you want to support me, great. The support would absolutely mean the world to me. Anyways, let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length, golly, another knife that really surprised me on size. Let me get this straight here. From tip to scale, you're looking at almost 8.5 inches. It's like 8.4 inches overall from tip to scale. I mean, you could call it 4 inches if you went down to here. I'm going to say the blade length is probably about 3.75, you know, because between this point and this point is about half an inch of distance. The actual cutting edge is exactly 3.5 inches. So a good size, certainly a full-size knife. How about some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1? Rat 1 coming in very similar length, 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue coming in at 8 inches overall. Kind of, I mean, obviously, there's no knife that I've ever seen that has exactly the same shape as this, but we're looking at similar height of scales. You know, everything here is just more blocky and angular. So good size comparison there. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7.25 inches overall. So how's the action on this guy? Well, that is one of my favorite things about it, actually. If you guys watch me unbox this, you'll know that, ooh, that's a fall shut knife completely. It also has this nice large thumb slot opening that's very easy to gain access to, and it's actually really pleasant to deploy. Whether you're deploying it this way, or you're using the reverse flick like this, or you're using the flipper tab, this knife is just perfectly set up to deploy. So fidget factor is off the charts on this guy. Really, really like it. How's the carry profile? Well, let's take a look at thickness first. Up against the Spyderco Para 3, you can see it's ever so slightly thicker. I mean, obviously, we're looking at titanium, carbon fiber. This is a heavier knife. But in terms of thickness, we're looking at similar. Not quite exactly the same. Carry profile this way. Let's take a look up against the Spyderco Para 3 and PM2. You can see there are two knives that I think have awkward carry profiles, but nobody ever complains about. It's so weird that that's become something that I say. Like, why do I need to say that? Oh, man. Okay, anyways. Yeah, I mean, there's no, I mean, it's a little high right here, but up against the PM2 Para 3 shouldn't be an issue there. Let's do weight, because that's going to be the other thing that's going to play a role here. We are looking at a fairly thick blade. Let's go ahead and turn this on. Every review, I get to mess around with this thing and get it to it. So the actual thickness on the blade, 150 to 155 thousandths. So fairly thick, fairly tall, quite a bit of material. And we have, as far as I know, yeah, those are solid titanium scales. No milling on the inside. So this is going to be a dense guy for sure. Not crazy. 4.69 ounces. That's pretty impressive. I was like, that's a 5-ounce knife. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't think that's a big deal. Obviously, that's going to be too heavy for some people. I would not recommend this knife in athletic shorts or, tightly fitted pants. Things like jeans, regular khakis, things like that. Yeah, you're not going to have a problem with it. But it doesn't have the best dimensions and the best weight, but definitely not the worst either. So let's talk about this ano pattern here. I want to point this out. I think this is interesting. So I looked at, taking a look at the anode pattern, you can see that it's kind of all over the place. It's sort of like anode clouds and it's pink and purple, kind of looks like candy. Some people are into that. I would venture to guess that there are less people out there who like that than other people. But here's the cool thing. If you take a look at this, go, pull this up. I'll have an Amazon affiliate link down there for this. You pull this up and zoom in, and you're going to see that some of the colors are the same, but the pattern will be different. And then I looked up pictures on Google and found wildly different colors of anodizations. Well, there still are, hints of blues and everything and bronze and everything. Varying levels of purple and orange and blah, 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 and their placement are different, which means anybody who is interested in bright, colorful anode patterns, you might get something different, every time. In fact, you will get something different every time. It's not the same pattern. They're clearly not laying down a stencil and doing some sort of anodization that way. It's a random anode pattern. So you might get something bright and candy colorful like this. You might get something a little bit more subdued with colors in different places. For some people, that's kind of fun. But like I said, for people who are not interested in that, they do have a plain tumbled tie version and a sort of green tumbled anode version of this as well. So that's kind of neat. I can completely understand that. For blade materials, we have, I was convinced, S35 VN. I was going to say I was convinced that it said on the blade there, but Bestech and some other companies have figured out that they really don't need to go overboard with the billboarding. They can just put a little thing down there. So S35 VN, a fantastic blade steel. In fact, one of my favorite blade steels or compositions, because I have no idea how this is heat treated. But yeah, S35 VN is a great blade steel. And we have a very futuristic looking Wharncliffe style blade that's actually been compound ground, meaning we have a different grind back here. It's going to be a little thicker behind the edge down here and thinner up here. Now, even down here, though, it's still fairly slicey. I'm not going to say that it's the thinnest thing in the world behind the edge back here, but it's still fairly slicey. No different than any of the other common high-end or medium-end or low-end knives out there that we all prefer. Up here, however, it does get pretty darn thin behind the edge. I don't know that that's ground in a way that's 100% meant as function. I think it's more of an aesthetic thing. The nice thing is that because of the way that the blade is shaped, in practice, I doubt you'll notice a difference in performance between here and here. However, if you are using this knife in a situation where you really do need a really thin edge, or you're doing something delicate, maybe you are slicing an apple, or maybe you are trying to make very thin cuts and make some kindling for a fire, then maybe that edge will be more useful to you. I always prefer that the thicker edge is up here and the thinner edge is down here, because if I'm going to do some delicate work, I would want that thinner edge down here. But if there is a purpose for having the thinner edge up here, I'm not aware of it. What it does create for some, and for me, a very good aesthetic appearance. It's neat, it's interesting, So that's cool. I appreciate that. I don't have a problem with it. The nice thing is that there's nothing in the cutting path, because we do have this large opening hole, which, let me emphasize, Bestech put that in exactly the right place. This knife is going to be really weird looking for a lot of people, but the truth is that ergonomically, where my hands fall naturally, oh, it's just great. It's really, really good. It's so easy to kick that thing out, do the reverse flick. There's no double clutch, and it's fall shut. I like that. It's cool, It's like, if it was weird and as clunky as it looks, this looks clunky, right? It's not. It's actually very graceful. It's a very, natural. Right when I pick it up, I'm like, oh yeah, that fits, perfect. Oh, falls shut and I can kick that thing out. It's nice. I like that. Really good. No sharp edges anywhere. All this has been nicely knocked down. We do have a flat that runs about I don't know, 85% the length of the blade, carrying a lot of that strength out to the tip. There's not an enormous amount of material out here, but it's going to be stronger than a lot of Wharncliffes that I've seen. It's S35VN, which nobody's corrected me yet. I think S35VN has the best toughness to the best. Is it the toughest stainless steel out there? I don't know. The correlations, I'm not really sure. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. It's also partially two-tone. We have kind of a matte finish down here on the bevel that drops to the cutting edge, and then sort of a satin finish. Looks like hand rub satin up top. That's nice. They've also nicely knocked down the inside of this so it doesn't have the issue that I was talking about with the Civivi shredder, where it kind of shreds your fingernails. That's mean. The Civivi shredder is a great knife, but that's what it makes me think of. I'm like, oh yeah, that knife that shreds my fingernails when I do the reverse flick. But yeah, really nice. Bestech, of course, does a good job just making the, the only billboarding is just their logo. It says Bestech Knives. It doesn't say China or anything like that. It doesn't have any serial numbers on there. Fantastic. I love that. Moving down to the scales, these scales you can see on the lower parts have actually been anodized bronze, and the coloration's all up here. Nicely knocked down on the scales all the way around. There are no hot spots in this. I mean, I'm comfortable with this knife anywhere. Jimping's good. None of the corners are super sharp. I mean, it looks like the clunkiness makes it look like there'd be a bunch of just sharp, pointy edges everywhere, and there just aren't. It's comfortable, Let me get out my handy dandy WeUp bit selector and my WeUp magnetic driver. Two items that are, in my opinion, indispensable and very inexpensive. But they're going to be used here to check the torque sizes. So both of those items are down in the description, along with links for some of the knives that I show every day, whether they are more expensive high-end production knives or some less expensive budget knives. I've got tons of stuff down in my description. If you hear me say that all the time and you've never looked down there, look down there. There's lots of stuff down there. Whatever your itch is, there's lots of stuff down there. I'm going to guess, as usual, the pivot on these high-end Chinese production knives, for anybody who doesn't know, Bestech knives are made in China, is usually they're T8. Yeah, that's T8. And I'm going to guess the handle screws are T6. Is that T6? Come on, camera. Yeah, T6. So let's take a look here. T6. T6. That's T6. And T6, yeah. So T8, T6. Bestech has that thing, like Civivi's got it figured out. They do T8 on the pivot at least, and then they do T8 body screws. Bestech likes to do T8, T6. I don't like that. It's like I say every single time. Not a deal breaker, it's just annoying. Number one, I have to change the bit. Number two, I have to change to a bit size that's easily stripped. I just don't like it. And there's a lot of them, right? There's two holding in the inlays, and then there's two back here. So you got 4 body screws. You don't necessarily have to take the inlays out, but if you're gonna completely disassemble the knife, you gotta deal with that 4 times. So I don't like that. Moving on here, super cool marble carbon fiber inlay. Not, if you look really close, there are actually some milling lines in it. Can you see those lines that are running this way with it? It doesn't create texture, but it does sort of subdue the carbon fiber a little bit. Not quite as shiny. Some people might like that matte appearance more than a shiny appearance. It certainly does look good, and it is certainly fitted very well. So yeah, I like that. I think that's pretty cool. We have 2 more body screws, like I was saying, holding in this really awesome gear pattern backspacer. We'll get to that in a second. We have 3 triangular shaped lanyard holes. I cracked the joke that for people who want a knife with 3 lanyards on it, that's not actually the purpose. Obviously, it's for people who have a preference on which part of the knife, how close to the butt of the knife you want your lanyard to be set. That's kind of neat. I can't say that it's really in the way of anything. They made plenty of room for the pocket clip to carry deep enough. So yeah, okay, there's some triangles back there. It certainly does fit with the theme of the knife. It's just a little odd looking. I love the knife from this angle right here. This bronze gear pattern backspacer looks great. I really have become a fan of backspacers lately, and this is right there in line with what I like. I love gear pattern backspacers. Pocket clip, 3D milled titanium, and goes right along, like perfectly along with the theme. It's always a bummer, and there's a knife coming up on my table that is a good example of this. It's a bummer when it's like the entire knife dedicates to a theme, and then the pocket clip is just like, like they were like, whatever, just slap a pocket clip on there, It always drives me nuts. Like, if you're going to have a theme for the knife, commit to it and make the pocket clip look like it. You know, this would not be my choice. Like, on another knife, you know, if I had a bunch of pocket clips laying on a table and they're like, choose a pocket clip, this wouldn't be my first choice. But would it be my first choice for this knife? Yeah, they nailed it. It looks like it belongs on this knife. There's a little tiny point right there. It's a little bit sharp, but while I'm using it, I realize I don't notice it. So that's not really that big of a deal. In and out of the pocket, it does okay. It wants to, there's a little bit of drag right here, not much. I imagine that's just tension. Carries about right here. That's deep enough for me. I'm happy with it. And it looks good, like I said. You do have a steel lock bar insert that doubles as the over travel step, as is the case with most high-end knives these days. The knife did come perfectly centered, and it locks up absolutely solid at something like 30%. No blade play up, down, left, or right. There is a stop pin back here that is external, and you can see there is shouldering, so that wraps nicely around the stop pin. I like that. Additional surface contact on that stop pin should reduce wear over time, and you know, in coordination with the steel lock bar insert. I also really like how Bestech's doing these pivots. It's nice. You know, this is the non-show side pivot. The adjustment side's over here. And then there's a bronzed, anodized, what I assume is a titanium pivot collar. So that's nice. There's a lot of detail on this knife, and it's very smooth, like unbelievably. I mean, this is like, you know, this is like $1,000, $1,500 custom knife. You know what used to be, you know, exclusive to those price points. You see it more often nowadays. Or you see nearly fall shut action, but it's really nice when you get kind of a meaty, heavy blade and it just coordinates well with that smooth action. Like, this is a prime example. This knife has fidget factor, good ergonomics, and it falls shut. I mean, God, it's just fun, you know? If you're looking for something weird and different, but like that weird and different doesn't go so far out of the way that it sort of ruins the utility of it, this is it right here. Here's my favorite part. Let me cover again the things that kind of bother me. I wish that the thinner part was back here, right? This thinner grind was back here, but that's not really that big of a deal. I don't like that there are T6 screws on there. I complain about that on like every other knife review that I do, but not that big of a deal. And there's a slightly pointy part of the pocket clip back here. As usual, this is a larger knife, so the length of the blade is going to be a no-go in a lot of places, but for those of us who can carry knives of this size and length, you know, great. And you know, it's not an ultra thick knife, but it is going to be thicker and heavier and bigger than a lot of people prefer, so consider that. Here's something that I think is a big positive with this knife. So consider again everything that you're getting here. You are getting titanium that has been nicely knocked down in all areas, an ergonomic design, a very fidget-friendly design, a knife that has a completely fall-shut action. You're getting marble carbon fiber inlay, and you're getting S35VN. This knife is made in China, but even all things considered, at the price point of about $215, I'm on board with that. You know, a lot of times I say, yeah, it would have really blown me away if it was 20 bucks less. You guys know the drill. Everything could be 20 bucks less, 50 bucks less, 100 bucks less. Sure, that'd make everybody's lives great. Hell, everything could be free. That'd be great, right? But it's not. At 215-ish bucks or 216.87, whatever. Yeah, this is definitely, like, there are a lot of knives that are doing this exact same thing, but they're priced at like 250, 240, 245, 250, something like that. Now, 215, yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, maybe this is a knife. I couldn't see this particular model becoming extremely popular because of how it looks. Well, then again, though, you have knives like this. PM2 takes the cake for the ugliest knife ever. I love the PM2. It's in my rotation, so don't jump on me for that. But yeah, you know, I mean, if this knife became extremely popular, obviously that price is going to go up. So it depends on when you're watching this. But yeah, I think that's kind of cool that you can get whatever, if you like the random ano pattern, you're a more colorful person, then you can, you know, kind of roll the dice and get a random ano pattern, or a random ano colorization, I guess. These little clouds or bubbles will be in different places too, just in case anybody's wondering, like all this. If you look at pictures online, like these little lines are in different places, so they've got a way to randomize it. But if you're somebody who doesn't like all that, well, you can get your flavor, you can get a more subdued, you know, stonewash. That's the one I'd go for. But all in all, yeah, this is very functional design. And yeah, I can recommend it. So this knife will definitely go on my most recommended knives playlist. Very happy with that. Another Great knife from Bestech. Guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this metal complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.